This time on Project Hardway, which has nothing to do with this car or that. It was a nice, quiet Saturday evening. So like I was trying to say before, today on Project Hardway, we're going to put brand new freeze plugs in the old big block here, and we're going to measure the combustion chambers on the cylinder heads before I send it off to the machine shop. Let's get into it. So here we are with the heads. Now that the block's all cleaned up, going to get the heads ready to go to the machine shop, which honestly, I'm not going to do anything to them to get them down there. I'm just going to do one quick procedure real quick. I bought this cheap CCing kit. I just want to get a rough idea of what size the chambers actually are. So when I get down there, I can tell them how far I want them to mill them down. These are the 781 cast 454 heads. They're off of probably a mid-70s truck. So they're not that big on performance, but as far as the 396 is concerned, it's got larger valves, it's got larger runners. And even though it's got the bigger combustion chambers, my pistons make up for that. So it effectively is a little bit more efficient, makes a little bit more power than it would with the stock 396 truck heads that were on it. Plastic scraper. There we go. It's not that stuck. I don't think this engine was run much after it was put together the last time, but it wasn't very well tuned either. It wasn't very well maintained. So, like I said before, I'm only going to check one of these cylinders. If you were building a race engine or we're trying to do something that's, you know, super high power, something that a little bit better quality, I guess, you would want to go through and you check the size of each chamber and get an average of what your combustion chamber size would be. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to check this one. You can see I've already cleaned it up. You want to get the carbon deposits or as much of it out of the combustion chamber as you can, so as to not make the chamber any smaller than it actually is. I've already got it clean. It looks like somebody's done something in here before. I'm not sure what or why, but it looks like, you can't tell because of the carbon deposits, but it looks like that's been done on the other chambers as well. So you want to make sure that your valves are in, springs are in, everything's nice and sealed. Got a spark plug in there. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take the plate out of this kit, put some grease around the edge of the cylinder combustion chamber here, and start filling it up with water, and paying attention to measuring how much water we put into it until it fills up. So this kit comes from Jegs. It comes with a plate that's got a hole in it there. You would set that over the chamber. It then comes with a giant syringe. Each milliliter represents 1 cc. This goes up to 60, so we're gonna have to fill it up a couple of times to figure out what these heads are, because from the factory, everything online says they're 119 cc chambers. It also comes with a set of nuts and bolts and washers in case your cylinder head wants to sit one way or the other while it's on your bench. You can put it through the head bolt holes, adjust the height, and level the head out. I got pretty lucky here. This thing is sitting right on top of the rocker studs and the valve springs, and it is sitting just about as level as it can be. So we'll get this cleaned up, ready to start prepping the service. It's got this nice little plastic on it. Yes. It's got one on the other side too. So nice, all clear, so satisfying. Scraped off some excess gasket material around this, wiped it down real good. It's not exactly perfect, but it should be good enough that we can get that plate to seal. To seal the plate, out of the way. I'm just going to use some regular old grease. I'm not going to use too much. I'm just going to try to put enough on there around the chamber that it kind of gives the plate something to stick to without squishing too far. The main thing is you don't want any water to come out of the chamber, and you don't want any of the grease to go into the chamber, because then it takes up some of the effective volume that you're trying to measure and can make it seem like you've got a smaller chamber than what you actually do. And of course, if anything goes wrong, if the water starts to leak out, or if the grease gets in there, I'll have to start all over. And my plate is clean. I think I'm ready to stab this thing on there. If you are tilted one way or the other, you want to put the hole that way so it gives an opportunity for the fluid to flow and the air to come out. Just gonna double check real quick. So it is on a slight tilt towards the other side of the shop. So I will set that there. Push her down. Give her a little squish. So, go ahead and start filling up my syringe. And the kit says to just use water. This kit comes from Jags. It costs $20. There's a lot more expensive kits out there that if you're a professional, if you're doing this a lot, all the time, every day, whatever the case may be, you'd want to have one of those. But for us regular guys that this isn't our day job, this will do just fine. So this first 60 mils going in now. Feed her in there. Alright, so the first 60 mils did not fill it up. Of course, I don't have 60 cc heads on a big block. But I am watching to make sure none of the water's leaking out anywhere. Here we go again. This should fill it up this go around. And there we go. So I had roughly 120 cc's of water that I put in there. I can't say exactly how precise that was. So I'm gonna go with, these are stock 119 cc combustion chambers. They've never been knocked down or milled down. According to Summit's compression calculator, if I take these and have them milled down to a 116 cc chamber, that's going to put me just over 10-to-1 compression ratio, which is still good for pump gas, good for driving around on the street, and should bump it up a little bit more in power than where it was when I first got the car. Alright, so now that I know what I've got going on with my cylinder heads and I know what I want to do with them, it's time to start getting the block ready to go back together. Now, when I knocked the cam bearings out, I had to knock out this plug that goes into the back of the block here to get the last bearing out. And at the time I said, I'm just going to replace that plug because I don't need freeze plugs. Well, it was either buy a set of 10 of those plugs for the rear, or for a few dollars more, get the entire plug set. So I'm going to go ahead and do something else I've never done before. I'm going to replace these freeze plugs. I didn't pay attention to what ones were in there before I painted over them. I think they're the steel ones. These are brass, so they won't rust and I won't have anything to worry about. I've watched 2 YouTube videos on how to do this, so I feel like I know exactly what to do. So everybody says take a screwdriver and a hammer. You will put it up against one side on the inside edge and beat the snot out of it until it starts to go in the block, and hopefully the other side starts to come out. When that happens, you can get in there with a pair of needle nose pliers, channel locks, vice grips, whatever you got sitting around, and pop it out of there. So here we go. Ah! It's doing nothing. I hit it like a man. Oh, I popped a hole in it. So I don't know, is what I'm saying. This is gonna be fun, because what's gonna happen, I'm gonna end up beating the center out of this and the ring will still be there. All right, Alright, well, that's why I didn't want to do this in the first place. Now it has to come out of there. It's got holes in it. Well, that did something. There we go. She's moving now. Little vice grips. Try to grab this edge here. No. Nope. Nope. I don't want to knock this into the block, but I will. And I did. Okay, so now that I've knocked it into the block, I'm trying to fish it up here. It likes where it's at now. It really likes where it's at now. Oh. Get out of there. Ah. I did it. Hopefully I don't have to do it again because there's like 5 more of those. Oh, by the way, if you've been hearing a bunch of ruckus in the background, in the first video you probably saw a shot of my dog Ellie, 7-year-old healer. Well, about a month ago we made a new addition here around the house. This is Bruno. I've always wanted a blue or gray pit bull for a long time, and we got an opportunity one night and I felt like I had to take advantage of that opportunity. And look at him, isn't he just a beauty? He's a good boy too. And he gives Ellie a run for her money. You'll hear him back here in the back of the shop. And I'll have to edit out all the times I yell at him to stop it. Now that the plug's out, we gotta clean up the hole here. It's gotta be a nice clean surface. A lot of guys use sandpaper or Brillo pad. Got this little pad sitting over there on top of the S10. Just get in there and clean up the gunk a little bit, make it a kind of smooth surface. Put some type of sealer on those old plugs. I'm gonna get as much of that off there as I can. Don't want to break out the sandpaper, but it's right there on the edge. I think that'll be just fine. If it's not, we'll know it, because it'll, piss coolant all over the floor once the pressure starts to build. Got my freeze plug here. Some guys, a lot of guys use some type of sealant on there. I know a lot of guys like to use some type of red Permatex. I don't have that. I do have the ultra gray, and this, I mean, that's just the every glue. I've smeared a light coat of it on there. That should help at least fill in any small imperfections or anything, prevent any type of leaking. I know some guys, a lot of older guys, they'll tell you to stab it in there dry. This block had some on it when I took the old ones out, so I'm going to put some back in it. Now, this is the closest fitting socket I've got, so I'm just going to roll with it. Put that inside there. You want to make sure you're hitting it flush and square and drive it in square. Might want to stand up. Stop and take a look at what I've got. See if I need to change the position of my socket, because it's not quite as big as my plug. It should be down here to the bottom. But that is loud. think I'll move it to the outside. We're getting close. Chipping my paint. I think that's it. We'll wipe this excess silicone off. Or just smear it around. You know, you do what works best for you. There we have it. One installed expansion plug. And more paint chipped off my block. So I'll go through, knock out the other 5, and boy, doesn't that just look a lot better? A little contrast there. Knock out the other 5 and then move on to getting ready to put things in the engine. There we have it. Got the freeze plugs in on the side of the block. They look pretty flush. Don't think I damaged them putting them in. There are still 2 more on the back of the block. Then of course the oil plug in the back of the cam. We'll get to that once we got the engine off the stand. Next, we're going to look at these cam bearings. It'll be another thing that I've never done. I've never taken cam bearings out before, and now I've never put them in either. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay. Hi.
Okay guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. I know it was kind of uneventful, but those freeze plugs fought me hard. That one that we watched me change, I had the same problem with every single one of them. I was knocking holes in them, knocking them into the block, having to dig them out. But they're in there, and I've got the peace of mind for it. You know, it wasn't easy, but that's the whole premise, right? Hard way, project hard way. Anyway, if you learned something today, cool. If you're just checking in, you know, see where we're at to get to where I'm sitting at today, awesome. Tune in next week because we're also going to be hand polishing the crank, putting cam bearings in this thing, and remember, it isn't always easy. Sometimes you got to do things the hard way.
You're too big to be up there.
No, I'm not. This is, you know, this is real car.